Hello guys, and welcome back to Dark and Haunting Tales. Today, we delve into the dark and mysterious world of camping in the woods. Brace yourselves as we unveil blood-curdling camping stories that will send shivers down your spine. Are you ready to unearth the darkest secrets hidden in the heart of the woods? Whether you are driving, in work, or on your bed getting ready to sleep, whatever you're doing, get ready to embark on this harrowing journey with us. Warning, the following stories may be disturbing for some viewers. Be advised. It was a bright and sunny morning when my friends and I decided to go camping deep in the heart of the forest. We were excited, carrying our backpacks filled with food and sleeping bags. Little did we know that this camping trip would turn into a nightmare we'd never forget. We followed an old overgrown trail, hoping to find a good spot to set up our tents. As we walked deeper into the woods, the trees closed in around us, casting eerie shadows. The air grew colder, and the sense of unease settled upon us. Eventually, we stumbled upon an abandoned cabin. Its windows were shattered, and the wood was rotting. It looked like it had been deserted for decades. Curiosity got the best of us, and we decided to explore the creepy place. As we stepped inside, the air grew even colder, and the shiver ran down my spine. The cabin was filled with dusty, decaying furniture, and cobwebs hung from the ceiling. It was clear that nobody had lived here for a very long time. We started to set up camp inside the cabin, trying to make the best of the situation. Nightfall came quickly, and the forest outside grew darker and more sinister. That's when we first heard it. Faint whispers echoing through the trees, chilling our very souls. I turned to my friends, my voice trembling.
Did you guys hear that?
They nodded, their faces pale with fear. We huddled together, trying to ignore the eerie voices, but they grew louder, more insistent.
What do you think it is?
Sarah asked, her voice barely above a whisper.
I don't know,
I replied.
but we should stay inside the cabin and keep the doors locked.
We sat there in silence, the whispers growing louder and more menacing. It felt like the very forest itself was alive with malevolent intent. Then, a loud thud echoed from upstairs. We all jumped to our feet, hearts pounding in our chests.
Someone or something is up there,
Mark whispered. With trembling hands, we crept up the creaky stairs, one step at a time. As we reached the top, the whispers reached a deafening crescendo. The door to one of the rooms slowly creaked open, revealing a darkness that seemed to swallow everything. We hesitated, but curiosity and fear drove us forward. Inside the room, we found an old dusty book lying open on a table. The pages were filled with strange symbols and incantations. As we stared at it, the whispers grew more menacing, swirling around us like a dark, suffocating fog. That's when we realized the horrifying truth. The cabin was not abandoned. It was inhabited by a malevolent presence, and it wasn't pleased with our intrusion. Panic set in as we heard the whispers forming words, promising us unimaginable horrors.
We need to get out of here, now!
I yelled. We ran down the stairs, through the cabin's rotting doors, and back into the chilling embrace of the forest. The whispers followed us, growing louder and more vengeful. We didn't stop until we were far from that cursed cabin. The sun was beginning to rise, and the forest felt peaceful once more. We never found out what had taken residence in that forsaken place, but we knew we had narrowly escaped its clutches. To this day, the memory of that night haunts our dreams, a reminder that sometimes, in the deepest and darkest corners of the world, there are malevolent forces that are best left undisturbed. My partner and I set on a solo adventure into the unknown, seeking the thrill of exploring untouched wilderness. The day was filled with excitement as we trackled deeper into the remote forest, miles away from civilization. We had always loved the outdoors, but little did we know that this journey would test our courage in the most horrifying way. As the sun dipped below the horizon, we set up our campsite in a tranquil clearing, surrounded by towering trees. The serenity of the forest was palpable, and we reveled in the beauty of the untouched wilderness. But as nightfall descended, the atmosphere shifted, and an unsettling silence enveloped us. The crackling campfire was our only source of comfort as we cooked our dinner, its warm glow warding off the encroaching darkness. We sat close, holding hands, and exchanged stories, trying to ignore the eerie feeling that had settled over the forest. Suddenly, the silence was shattered by blood-curdling screams that echoed through the trees. We jumped to our feet, our hearts racing, and scanned the darkness for the source of the horrifying sound.
What was that?
My partner exclaimed, her voice filled with terror. I strained to see through the thick woods, but couldn't see anything.
I don't know, but we need to stay calm.
But as we peered into the blackness, a pair of glowing eyes pierced through the darkness, fixated on us. Fear gripped us as those malevolent eyes watched our every move, unblinking and filled with an unsettling hunger.
Did you see that?
I whispered, my voice trembling. My partner nodded, her face pale with fear.
What could it be?
We huddled closer to the campfire, trying to ward off the creeping dread. The forest felt alive with an evil presence, something lurking in the shadows, waiting to strike. The night seemed endless, filled with the oppressive feeling that we were not alone. Hours passed in agonizing silence. The eyes never wavered from their fixed gaze. We couldn't take it any longer. We needed to know what was out there, even if it meant risking our lives. With trembling hands, we cautiously moved toward the spot where the eyes had appeared. Each step felt like an eternity, the forest pressing in around us. As we approached the location, the eyes disappeared, and the forest fell silent once more.
What do we do now?
My partner asked, her voice filled with anxiety. I could feel an invisible malevolence surrounding us, closing in with every passing moment.
We should pack up and leave right now.
In a hurry, we dismantled our camp, our movements frantic. The oppressive feeling of being watched never left us, even as we fled the forest in the dead of night. We emerged from the woods, battered and terrified, vowing never to return. The memory of those glowing eyes and the blood-curdling screams would haunt our nightmares forever. That night, we had ventured into the unknown and come face to face with an evil presence that we could never fully comprehend. A chilling reminder that sometimes the wilderness holds secrets best left undiscovered. A few years ago, my friends and I decided to embark on a camping adventure near an old and cursed burial ground. We had heard tales of the place, but we were young and didn't take the stories too seriously. Little did we know that this camping trip would haunt us for the rest of our lives. As the sun dipped below the horizon, we set up our campsite near the ominous burial ground. The air grew still, and the atmosphere seemed to change, as if the forest held its breath in anticipation. We started a crackling fire to ward off the encroaching darkness. Around the fire, we laughed and told stories, trying to ignore the eerie feeling that surrounded us. Our tents were pitched just a short distance away, but something about the place didn't sit right with any of us. The once peaceful night was soon disrupted by strange occurrences. First, it was the distant sound of mournful whispers carried on the breeze. We exchanged uneasy glances, but brushed it off as the wind played tricks on us. Then, the fire began to flicker and dance wildly, casting eerie shadows that seemed to move on their own. Panic started to creep in, but we convinced ourselves it was just our imagination. As the night deepened, strange figures emerged from the shadows. They were tall and gaunt, with pale, twisted faces that looked like they belonged to the restless spirits of the cursed burial ground. I gasped, my heart pounding in my chest as I pointed towards them.
Guys, do you see that?
My friends followed my gaze and gasped in horror. The ghostly figures were drawing closer, their movements slow and deliberate. Fear tightened its grip on us, and we huddled together, hoping they hadn't noticed our presence.
What are they?
Sarah's voice quivered.
I don't know, but we need to get out of here.
Mark replied, his eyes fixed on the approaching figures. We made a mad dash for our tents, desperately fumbling with the zippers and struggling to get inside. The night was filled with eerie laughter and whispers that seemed to come from all directions. Inside our tents, we clung to each other, trembling with fear. The figures surrounded us, their sinister presence growing stronger with each passing moment. They pounded on the tent walls, their faces pressed against the fabric, contorted in agony and anger. Hours passed, but the night seemed endless. We prayed for dawn to break, knowing that our very lives hung in the balance. Finally, as the first light of day began to filter through the trees, the figures retreated into the shadows, their haunting laughter fading away. We wasted no time packing our camp and fleeing the cursed burial ground, vowing never to return. The memory of that night still haunts our dreams, a chilling reminder that some places are best left untouched, and that there are sinister forces lurking in the darkest corners of the world, waiting to ensnare unsuspecting souls. My family and I embarked on a camping trip, eager to spend quality time together in the great outdoors. We found the perfect spot by a tranquil lake, where the water shimmered under the moonlight. Little did we know that this peaceful family outing would soon become a nightmare beyond our wildest fears. As we pitched our tent, the stars began to twinkle in the night sky, and the serene calm of the wilderness surrounded us. We shared laughter and stories by the campfire, relishing the tranquility. The night was crisp and clear, and we felt at one with nature. But then, as if out of nowhere, the calm was shattered. Eerie footsteps, soft and chilling, began to approach our campsite. We all fell silent, exchanging worried glances. Those steps didn't sound like any animal we knew.
Dad, did you hear that?
My daughter whispered, her voice trembling. My heart pounded as I nodded, unable to explain the strange sounds.
Let's stay quiet and see if it's just an animal passing by.
But the unease in the air was palpable. The footsteps grew louder and more deliberate, like someone or something was purposefully approaching us. Panic set in as we realized we were not alone in this remote wilderness. The sounds grew closer and closer, echoing through the trees. Each step seemed to bring with it a sense of impending doom. My wife whispered, her voice quivering.
We need to get out of here.
I agreed, and as fast as we could, we packed our essentials, fumbling with the tent and supplies. The footsteps continued to draw nearer, and the chilling presence enveloped us. As we made our escape, stumbling through the dark forest with the flashlights in hand, we couldn't shake the feeling of being pursued. The footsteps followed us, a relentless eerie presence that seemed to taunt us with its proximity.
Is it still there?
My son asked, fear in his voice. I shined my flashlight into the trees, but there was nothing to be seen.
I don't know, but we can't stop now.
We pressed on, adrenaline pumping through our veins, until we reached the safety of our car. With trembling hands, I fumbled for the keys and started the engine, leaving the forest behind. As we drove away, the fear slowly began to fade away. We couldn't explain what had happened that night, but one thing was certain. The tranquil camping trip we had envisioned had turned into a horrifying ordeal. The memory of those eerie footsteps and the sense of being watched haunted us for years to come. We learned that in the wilderness, where the night holds secrets, some horrors are best left unexplored, and some entities are better left undiscovered. It was a yearning for solitude that led me into the depth of the woods, seeking serenity far from the chaos of the world. The forest had always been a place of solace for me, a refuge from the noise and bustle of everyday life. Little did I know that this journey would lead me into the heart of an ancient curse, and my quest for solace would become a battle for survival. The journey began with a serene hike, birdsong and rustling leaves, the only companions to my solitude. The canopy of trees overhead provided a comforting embrace, and I reveled in the tranquility of the woods. But as I ventured deeper, the atmosphere began to change. The air grew heavy with an ominous presence, and the once friendly forest seemed to turn hostile. As darkness fell, I decided to set up camp. I lit a fire, hoping its warm glow would dispel the growing unease. But the flames danced with an eerie energy, casting unsettling shadows that danced in ways unnatural. I tried to dismiss the feeling, attributing it to my imagination. The night wore on, and strange sounds began to echo through the trees. Whispers, soft and sinister, wrapped around me like ghostly tendrils. I strained to hear, fearing I was not alone.
Who's there?
I called out, my voice trembling. No response, but the whispers persisted, growing louder, more insistent. I could make out faint, hunting words that sent shivers down my spine.
Leave this place,
they seemed to say, but I was determined to stay, to prove my courage. With each passing moment, the whispers grew stronger, and I could feel a malevolent force gathering around me. Shadows shifted in the darkness, taking on grotesque forms. Vengeful spirits, twisted and tormented, emerged from the depth of the forest and filled me with dread. I staggered back, my heart racing, and fell to the ground. The line between reality and nightmare blurred. I could no longer tell if I was awake or trapped in a terrible dream. The spirits drew closer, their agonizing wails piercing the night. Desperation gripped me, and I scrambled to my feet. I ran blindly through the woods, pursued by the relentless spirits. Their icy fingers brushed against me, threatening to drag me into their nightmarish realm. The forest itself seemed to conspire against me, trees twisting and roots reaching out to trip me. I stumbled and fell, gasping for breath. In my darkest hour, I felt an overwhelming surge of fear and despair. Just as I was about to surrender to the relentless spirits, the first rays of dawn broke through the trees. The spirits recoiled, their hunting cries fading into the warning light. I had survived the nightmarish ordeal, but the curse of the forest had taken its toll. I emerged from the woods, battered and broken, forever changed by the harrowing battle for survival. The ancient curse had shown me the thin line between reality and nightmare, and I knew that I could never forget the horrors I had witnessed. The forest, once a place of solace, had become a cursed realm where vengeful spirits roamed, and my quest for serenity had become a relentless battle for my very soul. These stories serve as a chilling reminder of the dangers that can lurk within nature's embrace. So the next time you venture into the wilderness, remember to keep your wits about you. And if you have any eerie experiences of your own, be sure to share them with us in the comments below. Thanks for joining us on this spine-tingling journey through real-life camping horror stories. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on post notification for more thrilling content. Happy camping and stay safe.